everyone, and welcome. This is Susan Lopresti, and you are listening to the Susan Lopresti Wellness, Mind, Body, and Soul podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I so appreciate you. If this is your first time with me, again, thank you. If you've been enjoying my podcast, please let me know. Leave me a comment. And if you feel that others would benefit from listening to my podcast, please share it with them. I would love to help as many women as possible through this podcast. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening. And my hope is that I can add value to your day. And now, on to today's episode with my very special guest that I have with me today, Roberta Morris. And I want to tell you a little bit about Roberta. She's the founder and CEO of Roberta M, LLC, Women Transitioning Through Midlife. Roberta has created a program that's called It's My Turn. It's a custom-tailored program for women 45 plus. As she transitions through midlife, this woman often finds herself at a crossroads, addressing those wellness and lifestyle changes or challenges she is currently facing. At this juncture of life, a woman often questions what she has accomplished. Has she met her personal goals? Where does she go from here? Why is she no longer feeling the same health-wise, physically and emotionally? And how can she control those unfamiliar menopausal symptoms? So based on this, Roberta created a program that's built on 4 pillars of wellness: sleep, nutrition, stress and anxiety, and physical activity. Roberta's programs provide the tools and support needed to retake control of a woman's personal, physical, and emotional well-being. Roberta is also an ambassador advocate for the Alzheimer's Association. Roberta works with elected officials on behalf of Alzheimer's patients and their caregivers to raise awareness of this public health crisis. It also provides quality health care, continued research, and for ongoing support and enactment of legislation. I was most intrigued about Roberta being an ambassador advocate for Alzheimer's disease because it's a very personal topic for me myself. I have 4 family members that suffered with Alzheimer's disease, and I have actually tested positive for the disease myself. So I'm very intrigued with the work that Roberta is doing, and I'm so grateful for people like her who are taking an interest and bringing much needed awareness to this disease. I truly believe that through lifestyle and dietary changes, we can prevent or at least slow down the progression of Alzheimer's. And ultimately, I would love to say in my lifetime that we've eradicated this disease entirely. Is that wishful thinking? Maybe so. Let's hear from Roberta. Roberta, thank you so much for being here with me today. I appreciate you taking the time to come on to my podcast with me.
Hi, Susan. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. So, Roberta, I have a whole bunch of questions for so long because, like I mentioned, I did have 4 family members that had Alzheimer's, so I've seen it firsthand. I see what it's like for the patient themselves, especially when they're beginning to notice that they're starting to lose their memory. Like I had one aunt who I noticed that she was always putting notes on Post-its, and she had Post-its all around her house to remind her of certain things. And it's such a scary time. Like I can't imagine what they're feeling, but I know from the person on the outside looking in, it was scary for me to watch that and to see three of my aunts that went through this, who were strong, vibrant women all their lives. And now they're just them in a shell. They're not themselves. So tell me why you became an ambassador and an advocate for Alzheimer's disease. Tell me about your own personal experience.
Okay, my grandmother, when I was actually quite young, so it was a very long time ago, was diagnosed with hardening of the arteries in the brain,
Okay.
which at that time was not even considered to be a part of Alzheimer's. Both my parents worked full-time, so my brother and I became instant caregivers. And as a result of this personal family involvement, I watched the devastating effects this had upon my family, both emotionally and financially.
Yes.
There was no support. And when I say support, I mean outside of the family, even extended family, outside of our close-knit family, there was no support. There was no education, no medicine. Very little was known in the medical field at that time. There was no community. There was no one to talk to outside of our little shell. So this left a lasting effect upon me. And over the years, I followed the research and the results. And eventually they did discover that hardening of the arteries of the brain was just another form of Alzheimer's disease. When the time was right, when I was no longer a caregiver for various extended family members and my children were grown and living out of the house, I decided it was time for me to redefine myself. So I became that wellness coach, developing my program, and decided that it was time for me to do something with the Alzheimer's Association. So I became a public policy advocate, eventually becoming an ambassador advocate for New York State Senator Charles Schumer. And I've also worked with other elected officials, Congresswoman Grace Meng, Congressman Thomas Suozzi, plus certain local New York State officials.
Roberta, tell me, what exactly is Alzheimer's and why do some people get it and others do not? Like, I guess you carry the gene for it, but
not everyone carries the gene. Not everyone carries the gene. No. And having the gene does not necessarily mean that you'll develop Alzheimer's.
Okay.
And not having the gene doesn't necessarily mean that you won't develop Alzheimer's. So there's a lot to be learned, a lot that we need to understand. We still don't understand everything about it. But Alzheimer's essentially is a brain disorder that only gets worse over time. It's thought that it's caused by an abnormal buildup of proteins, specifically amyloid and tau, and the deposits of these proteins form plaque in and around the brain. Mm-hmm. And that causes the brain to shrink and brain cells to eventually die. Alzheimer's disease is the most common cause of dementia. It's a gradual decline in memory, thinking, behavior, and social skills. And it does affect a person's ability to function. The majority of people who have Alzheimer's are 65 and older, but there are cases of younger onset, also known as early onset Alzheimer's. But at any rate, it's still not fully understood what goes on with Alzheimer's disease. There are several factors that are known to increase the risk of developing, but it's not a guarantee that you'll actually get it. As I already said, the genetic factor doesn't mean that you'll get it. You can be diagnosed and told that you have the disease or you have the gene and you have the propensity for developing, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you will. There are other factors that are taken into consideration. Your health, lifestyle factors. Lifestyle plays a bigger role than we originally thought. So by lifestyle, I mean diet or nutrition, your sleep, your physical activity, and the way in which you maintain stress and anxiety. And physical activity is actually a very big proponent, as is nutrition. They're very, very big factors. All of them, all four of these are actually four pillars of wellness, and they all play a significant role. But of them, those seem to be like the most important.
Right.
And engaging your brain, becoming socially active, teaching yourself new activities, using the left side, the right side, all the different sides of your brain, just to keep it going. By that, I mean socializing with people, joining organizations, reading, doing crossword puzzles, taking on new activities, things that you've never done before. Continue education, volunteer, learn how to, like I do. I like to create jewelry by using beads. I have done that before. I'm taking it up again. There are a lot of different things. You can go back to school, challenge yourself.
I'm thinking that these activities are almost like exercise for your brain. So,
Yes.
so it's important to move our bodies, right? That's a big proponent of it. And doing these challenging things, new things that we've never tried before, we're activating maybe parts of our brain that we've never used before. Let's say if I'm not artistically inclined and I decide that I want to take a watercolor class, it's actually like you're exercising your brain more or less, right? Or building the muscle.
Well, you're keeping your brain active.
Right, right. I get that. Is it true that more women get Alzheimer's than men? Because I hear that a lot. And why is that?
Yes. Well, the feeling is that menopause, transition through menopause, has an awful lot to do with that. The estrogen is a key factor for protecting the brain, and women lose estrogen as they go through menopause. So there's that factor. There's the factor that women tend to develop more inflammatory diseases than men, and they're currently looking at the development of, as I mentioned before, the different plaques, specifically amyloid, because it's thought that plaque buildup occurs during that particular time because women are starting to develop inflammatory diseases, and that helps. The amyloid helps to fight off these inflammatory diseases. So we're getting a very big buildup of the amyloid, and it's causing the dementia as a result, or it's causing the Alzheimer's as a result. But these are things that are being looked into. But right now, we do know that transitioning through menopause is a very big factor. 2/3 of every Alzheimer's patient is a woman, and there have to be other factors. We cannot say that it's the age, because we don't live that much longer.
Right.
And we tend to develop Alzheimer's at an earlier age. Alzheimer's actually can lay its foundations 20 to 30 years before it's actually diagnosed. So before you actually know that you have symptoms. The average woman is about 65 years old when the symptoms will begin to show. So if you do the math and you subtract it, it goes back to that same period of time.
Right.
Again, we don't know enough. We're still learning about it, but this is the thought is that it's going through menopause. Men do not lose a significant amount of hormones, not the same way that women do, especially not at the same age. There are other factors. It's not the fact that we are living longer. It's true we do. On the average, we do, but that's not the only reason why.
So one thing, as you're talking to me about this, I'm going back and thinking about 3 out of 4 of my family members. They were all women, but 3 of them had jobs, and 1 of them was a stay-at-home housewife. Throughout their whole entire life, like they worked from when they were young until retirement years. So they worked a long period of their life, and yet they still developed Alzheimer's the same way that my aunt, who was a housewife, developed it. So, but none of them, by the way, had very big social lives. The ones that did go to work, they went to work, but they didn't have outside interest of meeting their girlfriends for dinner at night or going to see Broadway shows. Like they weren't active. They were very much homebodies. So even if they were in the workforce, they went to work and they came home. And I really think that we were a very small, close-knit family. And I really think that actually worked against them in a way, because they didn't have many outside interests other than having to go to work, because they weren't careers, they were just jobs for them. You know what I mean? So I don't think that their work defined them or gave them a sense of purpose. It was about getting a paycheck. So I honestly believe, like, my mom is 88 years old, and she's very, very social. She's a social butterfly, and she does a lot. And she's really still with it, at this point. And so, and one of the aunts that I'm referring to was one of her sisters, and the others were on my dad's side of the family. So there's a lot to think about. Let's talk about treatments that are out there. What's new? What's working? And are there new drugs that look promising, but just new on the horizon? What's going on with that?
Okay, so currently there is a treatment that has been FDA approved. It's called Leqembi, and it's a very expensive drug or treatment. If you're fortunate enough to be in a study research program or are able to afford the cost of it, because it is so expensive, you can have the drug. But most people cannot.
Could I just interrupt you for a second there, Roberta? So if you have medical insurance, it's not being covered under medical, or it's a big copay?
Okay, so yes, what the problem is that CMS, which is the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, has at this time refused to pay for it. So that means that the vast majority of people cannot benefit by the treatment.
Oh.
And the purpose of this treatment is to slow down the progress of Alzheimer's disease. Right. So it gives the person, the patient, more time to remain cognizant, to be able to socialize, to have interaction with their family, to understand what's going on, and they can help make decisions about their personal lives. Without the drug or the treatment, they just progress that much quicker. The treatment has slowed down the progress significantly. We do not at this particular time know the full reason why CMS has refused to cover it. We have been holding rallies. Various politicians, and I should say many politicians, have been contacting and signing letters and trying to encourage CMS to change their outlook and attitude about this particular treatment. They've never done this with any other FDA-approved drug. So other diseases get the full benefits of whatever's been approved. Right. But for whatever reason, they are not covering the treatment, the Leqembi. Now, as far as what's coming on down the pike, recently, Eli Lilly put in for FDA approval on their drug, donanemab. It probably will be approved. I believe they already put in the paperwork, but I'm not absolutely sure about that. Again, we don't know that CMS will approve that or approve payment for that treatment, but we're hoping that they will. We don't understand. This is a disease that affects everybody. There are very few people who are not either personally affected, have family members, or have friends who have been affected. Most people know somebody, right, or personally affected. So we don't really understand why they're not paying for this. Yeah. We're hoping that in July, when they review this treatment again, they will change their minds, but we don't know yet. We won't know. It's kind of looking a little promising, but we still don't know.
It's so disheartening to think that there's something that can help people out there, and it's only available to people who could afford it, which most people who are getting Alzheimer's are in retirement years. And so how do you expect them to spend their life savings on this drug? It's terrible. I really hope that they're able to make that change. Is there anything that can be done? Can you write a letter? Can you get involved in some way to advocate for this drug being paid for?
I'm sure there are ways. I mean, you could start even by writing a letter to the editor, voicing your opinion, trying to encourage CMS to okay or approve payments for these treatments. You can contact your various elected officials, encouraging them to continue the fight for these treatments. Many are out there doing their best to try and encourage, but it's good to know that their constituents want this, that it's important to them, because it causes them to fight even more. And for those who have not really been out there fighting, they see that it isn't so important to their constituents, that perhaps they'll change their minds and start acting on it as well.
Right.
You can become a volunteer. We're always looking for volunteers for support.
So-
There are many different ways that you can become a volunteer. It's not just what I do as an advocate for public policy, but there are other things. I'm currently becoming a community educator for the Alzheimer's Association Healthy Living or Healthy Lifestyle program. You can do things like that. There are a lot of different things that can be done.
More people that get involved and start pushing back and saying that these drugs should be paid for.
Okay.
Let's go on. I want
Okay.
to ask you about preventing Alzheimer's by eating whole foods and eliminating or reducing processed foods.
It's very important to maintain a healthy diet. So, and it's already been shown that just about the healthiest one out there is the Mediterranean diet, because it includes the concentration is on produce. So vegetables, fruits, things like that, nuts, grains, things of that nature. They do have dairy products. They'll have, certain cheeses and what have you. They do have some chicken, a lot of fish, very, very little meat, beef.
Right.
If you maintain a healthy diet, and when I say that, I'm talking right now about fruits and vegetables. If you incorporate what they call the rainbow, you're getting the most value, because you're getting the most nutrients, supplements, and you're getting the fiber, you're getting every healthy aspect of fruits and vegetables.
Right.
But they're extremely important. Just to go back a little bit, because women are more susceptible to Alzheimer's, and the foundation does usually start 20 to 30 years prior. So, and assuming that it's happening during your transition, and you're going through many other different factors, not just the foundation of any inflammatory disease, but you're also controlling, your hot flushes and your night sweats and your brain fog and all these different things. So in order to control a lot of these things, if you maintain a healthy diet, and you will have an easier time transitioning. Will it prevent Alzheimer's? The thought right now is that it can, or it may actually, but it will help control. It can help slow down the process. That is the current thought of a proper nutrition.
Right.
Equally as important is physical activity. Now, physical activity, most people will think of as exercise, which is extremely important. But not everyone is into exercise. Doing other physical things like gardening, those are different form. That's a different form of physical activity.
Yeah.
So you need to get your body going. You can't sit all day. There's an expression out there now that sitting is the new smoking.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's doing to your health what smoking has done to your health, but in different ways. So it's important to get up and to just move around. I recently purchased this, I don't even know what it's called. It's this little thing that you can, like a stair stepper sort of.
Yeah.
And so that you're not sitting all the time, you could do something like that. Or I know
my daughter just bought one the other day, actually.
Okay, so you know basically what I'm talking about.
Yes.
You shouldn't just sit.
Right.
And again, sleep is very important. They say I have never been a person who sleeps 8 hours a day. I've never been that person, but they say that most people should get at least 8 to 10 hours of sleep at night. Me, I'm lucky if I get 4 to 6 hours, but that's me. That's just the way I've always been my entire life.
Right.
But that's the thought of that. And very important is maintaining stress. Stress is a very key factor in Alzheimer's because your brain is not functioning the way that it should be. So a good way to maintain stress is to journal, to meditate. If you are a walker, which is very good physical activity, and you just appreciate your surroundings and what's going on around you in your environment, that's another way of controlling your stress. There are a lot of people who like to color. I mean, they have these adult coloring books now. That's a good way to maintain stress.
Yes.
And then we get to the social activities. You want to stimulate your brain as much as possible. You want to have as much to do with people as possible. You don't want to be lonely, because loneliness just brings on more stress, and that's stressing your brain and the shrinkage, and it just spirals from there. While diet is extremely important, and I'm a very big believer in that, you need to have a well-balanced life or a lifestyle.
So you mentioned that sitting is equivalent to smoking these days, right? Which brought me back again to my aunts. And the ones that are on my dad's side, all three of them smoked. Two out of those three went to work, but their work was office work, so they were sitting all day, right? They were sitting and probably smoking at their desk, because back then you could smoke anywhere. It's not like it is today. So they had that against them as well. Plus, again, back to my dad's side of the family, they only socialized with their family, with their sisters. They didn't have a network of friends. So all of these factors were really against them from the get-go. And back then, there was no research for what you're talking about today. I don't think 20 years ago or 25 years ago, when they were developing Alzheimer's, that this information was even out there. So there's so much more that we know today than we did back then. So they really didn't stand a chance, because they, like I said, they smoked and they sat. They were office people. They sat at a desk for 8 hours a day, and there was no socialization. So they really, there was a lot against them back then, I guess. So,
well, it's not, family is very good. It's part of community, it's part of who you are, and it's an extremely important thing. But I don't know what your aunts did. It doesn't, there are so many other factors to include. So
they didn't do much, I could tell you that.
So they probably were deficient in other areas. Yeah, you're right. We did not know enough those years prior about diet and about women and why they're a larger majority of the Alzheimer's patients. We're learning, and we still have a long way to go. We still have a lot more left to learn. And there's an awful lot of research going on now.
Right, yeah. So in closing, is there anything that you would like to share with the audience? And especially, how can we find you? If anyone has questions, how can they reach out to you? And or if they wanted to get involved with helping you in your organization and everything that you're doing, what's the best way for them to get involved?
So the best way to get involved is if you're interested in becoming a volunteer, and I'll send you the link. It's for the Alzheimer's Association. You wouldn't necessarily be involved with me because it depends on where you live. But there are a lot of very good advocates out there, and you would be working under different supervisors or what have you that are part of the Alzheimer's Association. They work for the association. I report back directly to certain people, but we do need more volunteers. It's always important to have volunteers because we need to have certain things accomplished. With public advocacy, public policy advocacy, we try to raise money for research, and we try to have certain acts enacted or put through. That's the purpose of going down to DC to advocate.
Mhm.
Although this time was not just for that, it was also for the rally to have Biden and the CMS reconsider their stance on making treatments available. But we need people. We need people. We get a lot accomplished with more voices, and we need people to talk on behalf of the people who cannot talk for themselves. So the person with dementia, Alzheimer's.
Yes.
So it's important to have volunteers.
Okay. Is there anything in closing, anything else that you?
No, I kind of believe I covered everything that is important for women specifically to understand.
Right.
Alzheimer's is not just for the woman, but men who do develop Alzheimer's tend to be older, and not if there aren't as many numbers. But you're losing your ability to communicate and to understand and recognize your environment, especially. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard to watch that happen to another person. Yes. And God knows, obviously, what that person is feeling and thinking. Who knows? It's just really, it's a very devastating disease. I mean, and this is an aside, last year when we went down to DC for the forum, there's a couple who from New York State. The wife has Alzheimer's disease, and she's by her husband's side all the time. I saw her again this year. She spoke after her husband spoke at one of the meetings that we had, and I think this was for Senator Gillibrand, but I'm not positive anymore. And she spoke beautifully and very meaningful. It seemed as if she had full control of her mental capacity. Mm-hmm. And then we took a group picture. This was in the afternoon. We took a group picture at night, and she happened to be standing next to me. And I told her what a wonderful job she did. And she had no idea what I was talking about. None at all.
Oh, yeah. Scary.
So it's a very scary thing.
Yes, yeah. Well, Roberta, thank you so much for being with me today. I really appreciate it. I especially want my audience to know about this disease. I want them to be aware of it. I'm sure a lot of them are, but I think it's important to talk about it, and also not only to talk about it, but to get involved, especially when you were telling me about those drugs that are out there now that have positive effects and they're not being covered by medical insurance. And that is so disturbing to me. So I hope that my audience listens to this episode and also decides to get involved in whichever way that they feel comfortable getting involved. But I do want you to know that I will be providing a lot of information in the show notes. So please go back to the show notes, look at everything that I have, get involved, write letters, do whatever it is that you can to try and help to get this disease at least under control or slow down the progression of it in our lifetime. So I just want to thank everyone for listening today. I so appreciate each and every one of you. And until the next time, be well, stay happy, and bye for now. And Roberta, thank you so much again for joining. I really
thank you for the opportunity, and thank you to your audience for listening.
Thank you.